to another Felt Alive video workshop. My name is Petal of Felt Alive Wool Sculptures, and I'm here to share with you the magic of soft sculptural needle felting. It's great fun to take fluffy wool and turn it into anything you can imagine. I've imagined these little fun little pixie boys. They're really simple. Few simple techniques to bring out a lot of cute little character with very few ingredients involved. So without much further ado, let's just proceed. All you need is some good needle felting wool. I prefer batting. I have my own brand of Felt Alive wool. I have a nice skin color here. You can see I made this little guy out of that. And I have a lovely dyed yellow. So I'm going to set my three little helpers aside and we're going to get busy. So the first thing we want to do, they're going to make an appearance every now and again, is we're going to make their cute little heads. It's a fun way to start. So let me tear into my flesh colored wool. So I've opened up my flesh colored wool and I want to pull off. You can see it relative in size of my hand. I want to pull off two of those. You see any grass or anything hiding in there, other colored wool, just pick it out. So most time it comes right out when you're working, but it's easy to grab it out right away. So let's see here. I got another little sheet. So that's about all we need, is about these two little sheets of wool. So if you've followed my workshops before, you know how to make a basic egg shape, but if you haven't, this is the first time. It's one of the biggest skills you'll need to learn to be able to bring the wool to life is to turn it from fluff into little shapes. I start everything with egg shapes. So what I do is I'm holding it in my left hand. I'm just going to use my thumb to fold it over. I'm going to just gently roll the wool rather than fold it. Just going to roll it and let the wool stretch and pull itself just a little bit. Now I'm going to use my other thumb, the side of it really, to start corralling these loose fibers over. Then just go right over and start again. See how I'm just grabbing, sliding my thumb across there and letting the wool drag along behind. Same thing over here. Now I'm going to continue. I have a little tail here in my hand. I'm holding on tight. So I'm just going to continue to fill in that middle with the tail. Here's that little tail. So as soon as I get that tail wrapped around, I'm going to start needle felting it. I have a double 40 triangle needle here and I've color coded it yellow. It's one of my favorite needles. It's part of my Felt Alive Super Duper lineup, and it's a tough little work tool. So you can see I'm just poking along where those loose fibers were, where that little tail was. It's the only place I need to start tangling the fibers to hold itself together. And as soon as I get that little tail down, I'll be able to let go of this shape and it won't pop back into those little sheets we started with. You can see here, there's still some fluff I need to felt down. So it's rather long. I want the head to be much more rounded. So this is just a preliminary egg shape here. So what I just want to do is just take it and squish it down and keep felting it. You squish it into the sides. Once you have the basic shape wrapped and the wool holding itself together, you can start squishing it almost like clay. But the only difference is you have to stab it with the needle a whole bunch of times to get it to hold its shape. See, I'm squishing it. Squishing it right as I go, and it holds it together like that. If I want the head a little bit bigger, I would just need to wrap another sheet or two of wool around it. But we're going to add the little facial features, so this is going to be a perfect size for these little fellers. They're maybe 3.5, 4 inches tall. So you can see I'm not going very deep. There's barbs right along here. And if you poke all the way through, you just wind up driving fibers into your pad, your foam felting pad, and you just wind up working too hard. So try not to go any deeper than the barbs on your needle. And always be mindful of where your fingers are in relation to the points of these needles, because they're very sharp. And I'm just rolling it around till it looks like all the loose fibers are felted down and I can't pull or scratch too many off. They're not tight, but you don't want to be able to just pull up loose tails. So just a few more times around. Now if I want his face to be a little more round, which I'm happy with this, but I'll show you what I've done is squished it right down on my pad. I'm going to take this yellow needle and stab it in one time and just do very careful jiggling inside, and that's felting the fibers deep in the middle. It's going to hold it down. I'm going to stab it in another spot. You can see it's leaving big holes. Those will be covered up. So it just made it a little rounder. Then you can go along and felt it again just to make sure it holds, because it's going to want to stretch back out. So now you have that done, I want to get his eyes placed. Generally eyes are right in the middle of the head. It's just an easy thing to do, just to draw a line with your double yellow needle. If you don't have a double, I recommend a single yellow needle. It works the same. You just have to poke twice as many times and it breaks easier. It's really thin and flexible. For some reason these two together are much stronger. Same gauge needle. So anyways, I've just drawn a line where the eyes are going to go. That's going to help me place the nose, which we're going to do just next. Back to my wool, my flesh color, and this time I just need a little pinch. And see, I just pull off a little pinch. We're going to make a cute little button nose for this little guy. So pick out any grass or VM in there, and just hold it in your fingertip. I start working without telling you what I'm doing. I've done this so many times. But anyways, I'm just going to fold it over somewhat like you started that egg shape, but you're working with more your fingertips than your thumb. I mean, than your whole, well yeah, than your thumb. So anyways, I've just folded that over a couple times so there's no fluff. You can see there's no fluff on this edge. But you have some little seams here where these little folds have gone. I like a single needle for this. A single yellow works perfectly just to give it a light felting to hold that seam together. You don't want to do anything more but just gently felt that tip. I didn't drive any fibers through by poking it through all the way. I just gently did that. Now what this is a little tiny nose. This little part where I'm pinching is going to become the bridge. The bridge is the thinnest part, right between the eyes. It's right in the middle of the face, right in between the eyes. So I'm holding it. You can still see the line you drew in there. So I'm just going to take right in the center of it, and if you can see what I'm doing here, I'm grabbing just a few, I'm poking into the nose and pushing just a few fibers right into that line. Then I'm going to go to the other side of the nose, and again I'm just pushing a few fibers just to tack it into the head. Doesn't take much. You don't want to felt down over the top of the nose at all. So now I have this funny looking thing, and this is going to form the eyebrow bone, the brow bone, the eye sockets even. You can sort of see there. There's where the eyes are going to be. So I've just fanned that out, and now I just want to take the double yellow works good for that. I'm just going along and tacking them down on the edges. You can see his little profile starting to emerge. That's going to change really quickly. So here I want to squish it down a little bit more. I'm going to take my double and grab just a few more fibers. This is the deepest part of the face right here, the corners of the eyes. So just a couple pokes, that just holds it all in really good. So now that part's done. So now he needs this little mouth. We make this little shape separately and then we attach it. then you'll need a little sheet of wool, probably about the size of that you just pulled off for the nose. Just a small sheet. See how thin it is? So lay that right on your felting pad. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a nice clean edge. And to do that, I like my double yellow needle again for that. I'm just going to draw a little line right, I'm going to go over that a couple times right in the center of this sheet of wool. There's fluff on all sides. And so once I've gone over that just a couple times, you'll feel the fibers actually going into your pad, and that's a good thing. So then, just take and gently fold it over. You can see the fibers are being held right in there in your pad. And so then I just take and draw a little half moon shape, a little half circle from one end of the line to the next. So you just draw a little half circle with your needle, and then take and start flattening all that air out of there. I'm taking very, very short strokes. I'm not going too deep. In fact, I'm going to switch to my double blue. The blue's it's a finer needle and it only has a couple of barbs and they're closer to the tips. So this is really good for surface felting, and it's just really gentle. I'm not going to be pulling and driving a bunch of fibers into the felting pad. It's just flattening down this little mouth shape. So there, that's flattened down. So now I'm just going to gently pull it off. If you're wondering where I found this nice tan felting pad, it's actually one of my foam pads that I sell. It's just a high density charcoal gray foam, and I just take some craft felt that I get at the craft store, just acrylic felt. It's not wool felt even, and I cut a piece to fit over it. It makes it really easy to clean up my pad, and it's easier to see sometimes. That's easier to see, but when you're working with darker colors, it's easier to see. If there's a little more contrast, you can have several colors around. I switch up colors depending on what I'm working on. And when this gets all contaminated, here's a sheet. That one I did some red and pink work on there. Anyways, you can just pull it off and replace it. So, okay, so I pulled this off the felting pad, and then I just want to make sure there's not a lot of fuzzies here. So I'm taking this needle and holding it nearly parallel to my project, so it's pushing these little loose fibers right up into that mouth shape. So that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to hold right on into that little half circle I just felted, and I'm going to just trim off some of these. Trim off or fan them out. If you fan them out, you find some really big glob, then just gently tear it off, but it should basically look like that. So then determine the middle of this half moon and separate it right down to the felting part, and take it right, see the little nose there? It's going to go right up, and I'm going to smooth my hands right over that nose. Let me get my yellow single. Whoops, that was my double. I just need a single. And I'm going to repeat right there where I stabbed between the eyes before. Right there. And then I'm going to force this up. See how I'm kind of holding it around the tip of the nose. Just going to imagine where there might be a couple nostrils. And that's a great place to tack the mouth in as you proceed. So there he is. There's a little fella already. Sort of. It's not going to take much more to get him happy and smiling, and you'll see. So what I want to do now is I want to make him smile and give him some little eyes and get his face sculpted into shape. He definitely needs some chubby cheeks. So what's going to happen is this fluff is going to turn into his cheeks, and it's going to fluff him right out. So what we want to do is start playing with this. You can see you can make him smile already. So I'm going to take one corner of his mouth and I'm just going to tack it with my double yellow needle. See how I'm just kind of jiggling it again? As long as you've got some fibers that it's grabbed hold of, then that's the main thing. And again on the other side, just curving it up towards his nose a little bit. We'll be able to sculpt it all back into shape. you're worried his nose is looking crazy or disappearing. Mine is, that's for sure. So I'm going to go back with my single yellow, and I'm going to start back on his nose again. And I'm just going to keep sculpting. Needle sculpting is very intuitive. You have to sort of follow your own artistic abilities. Even if you don't know you have them, you do. Needle felting will help you find that. Because it's so fun, because if you make a mistake, you can pull it right back out. And like I say, if I think that's too high and it's messing with everything, I can just get a sewing needle. I get a pretty strong darning needle that's got a sharp point. The dull points are hard to poke into the wool. So if I feel like I pulled that up too high, I can just manipulate it with a sewing needle. I do it with a sewing needle rather than my felting needles because the tips will snap and you've wasted a good needle. These are much stronger, the sewing needles. So that's a recommendation there. So now what I want to do is just start fluffing this cheek part, felting the fluff of the cheek part. You can see there, and I didn't felt into the top of that at all. I just tacked down those fuzzy edges on the side. He looks a little silly because he's really rough still. So I'm going to take my double blue needle and just gently felt over the fluff. This doesn't felt the wool down as much as the yellow. The yellow will compress that down. This will felt the surface without compressing this nice lofty cheek. So what I do on one side, I do on the other. I'm just gently going over that just to get it down and make it not be fuzzy and fluffy and have a nice felted surface. So a little needle sculpting. If you see one side of the head's bulgy, has a big bump on it, you can just felt it right down. The blue double is really good for surface work. So here's where the eyes are going to go, and I'm just working around that little socket. And you see I jump around a lot when I'm making faces. So I'm using this sewing needle again. I want to get him smiling. I'm going to get this double needle right up along the sewing needle. I don't want to stab the sewing needle. It could break my needle. So I'm just going to go right down along it. We're going to hold that cute little smile into place. This one's pretty good over here, but now I want to look at this chin. Kind of give him a goofy look. So I'm going to take my sewing needle and just pull it out a little bit. Now I'm going to do a little sculpting. They don't have much chins. They're fairly rounded, but see there's a really nice smooth transition. And this guy, you can still see his, looks like he has jowls. So we want to sculpt this all in a little bit. You can make it look however silly you want it to look. I'm felting a little more aggressively here. You can hear me poking a little bit deeper and harder because I'm trying to shape this chin up a little bit. So I'm going to get my double blue again. I'm going to give his mouth a little more sculpting, and he's looking a little puffy there. So I'm going to sculpt that down just a little bit, just flatten it a little bit. Sometimes they have, you can have a little line right there, a smile lines going from the corner. And as soon as we start adding some color here, you're going to see this thing start really popping alive. And it's pretty cute. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm pretty happy with all that. Let's bring him to life. I have my Doll Maker's detail kit. I use it all the time. It comes with all kinds of colors for eyes and shading and teeth, all that stuff. We're not going to get into the teeth today, but we're going to need some components of the detail kit with this. What I need now is some of this nice chocolate brown color. So I just need to pull off just a little bit. When I say a little bit, it's really wisps. So what I want to do is pull off 2 relatively little equal size wisps off of that little wisps. We're really dealing with just tufts of fiber here. There's they don't amount to anything really weight wise or anything. So now I'm going to rub this between my fingers, and this rubbing, I'm not rolling it like in a ball, I'm just rubbing it, and that's just concentrating these fibers down a little bit so I don't have to do so much poking. This is starting to felt it, tangling these fibers together. So clean that up, and I'm just going to keep rubbing it a little bit. And you'll see these loose ends. You can just tear them right off with your fingertip, and then do the same with that second piece. And these are the eyes. Simple little brown spots for eyes. Add a whole lot of character fast. So again, just pull off the wispy ends. You don't want a lot of wool in there. You don't want these big bulgy brown spots. So let's just show you here what. I'm just going to lay that in there. And I'm going to take my single yellow needle and just start tacking it in. See, it looks a little crazy when it's big. So you want to felt that in to just a cute little spot. And again, the other one. You want to try to get them somewhat the same size, so you can go around the edges and reduce the size if one is too big. They don't have to be perfect because their eyes peek out from under their little hats. Anytime you don't like something, you can, let's just show here, let me show you how you can squish. If you want his face a little fatter and chubbier, you can still squish. The corners of the mouth are a good spot to try to lock this shape in. Something I like to do is I'll take one of my lollipop sticks, also known as a felting stick, and just press right down to make the eyes even more deep set, so this bridge of his nose isn't sticking so far out. Gives a cuter little more button nose. Just going right down along my stick there. You can see how it brought in the bridge right there. It makes a cuter profile. They're so cute. And so now I want some little same kind of thing as with his eyes, some more little black, not black, brown. I like to use brown. It doesn't look so unnatural as black. Black tends to really contrast too much with these flesh tones, and so I'm just concentrating this down. Probably just need really little bits to show the little dark in the nostril. So again, my single yellow. This thing grabs a lot of fibers and puts them where I want in a hurry. The blue is a little more gentle with the fiber. It doesn't grab as many, but it doesn't compact it and force fibers a long distance. So you see, I'm just working that into where I'm imagining a nostril would be. They just start getting so cute when you start adding a little bit of contrasting color. They make me giggle. So it looks like we're out of space there for another nostril, but we're not. You want to be careful to get the edge of it right along the line of the lip, or you can easily make it look like a snout if you get the holes up here too far. Which is cute, it's up to you, but I like to get them looking like so. Already. So now I'd like to give a little more definition to his mouth. You can see on this guy, you can see a little bit of brown. It just adds a nice bit of definition. So again, I just take wisps. I'm going to just pull those apart a little bit and concentrate them into more of a line. And I think my double needle will make faster work of this. You can see how I'm just going right up under that lip, just enough so you can see. And then with the corners, it just gave it a cute little look. Now I'm going to sculpt it down just a little bit more. Switch to the blue because that's starting to beat up the wool too much. I don't want it to. I just want the subtle little changes here. So I can give this nose a little more definition if I want to with sculpting, or I can leave it cute and buttony. So you can see how I just go over the thing. If I see something that bugs me, I just sculpt it down, or if I see fluff or fuzz, I sculpt it down. You kind of have to roll it around. You can't always see it all right at once. You have to roll it around, check the profile. I'm going to give him more of a little forehead. Just kind of flattening this out a little bit. You can see how his profile changed. So let's add a little bit of color to his cheek. In the detail kits I always include colors for blushes and shading, and I see a nice little pink color here. It doesn't take much. This is a merino roving. You can use pink felt alive wool, the same kind you used on the face, only a pink color, and it blends in well. If you're using merino roving, you have to kind of break it up first with your fingers. Cutting it makes it harder to felt. Those cut edges don't like to felt in, so I recommend tearing it apart. It doesn't take a lot of work. So you can either just use it as is. It tends to look like dots or spots. If you want it to blend a little bit better, I recommend taking a little bit of your flesh color and we're just going to make a nice blush. I'm going to keep blending this merino with my flesh color, and this is going to make a really pretty glowing cheek, softly blushed cheek. So make sure I don't have too much of it, and save that other little tuft right there because you're going to need to do it again if you didn't mix enough. So I'm going to start tacking this down with my double blue just around. See how I just set it on the cheek? Just around the fuzzy edges. And once I get those tacked down, I can just start gently going over it. It's blending in so pretty and nice. A couple little darker fibers in there. If they bug you, just pick them out. If you anything that bugs you that's not supposed to be there, it picks out pretty easy. So I'm going to switch to my single blue. There's that black fiber that's bugging me. There, it's gone now. You probably couldn't even see it, but I sure could. So if it's a little splotchy, you can just gently, gently, gently scratch the surface. There's another one of them. It's gone now. There was two in there, two thin little, I think they were merino from the detail kit. Another color. So you see how I'm moving it around a lot? This is felting the fibers in all directions, so you're not going to get a lot of grooves or stripes. It just takes a minute to go over this until you have a cute little blush cheek. So you kind of got grooves and stripes here. I don't know if you can see it. So I'm just fluffing it back up and felting it back down. Merino tends to leave little grooves and stripes, so if you have a pink felt alive wool or batting, it tends to be a little bit easier. So, again on the other side, the more you blend it, the less you'll have little stripes and grooves. So take the time to blend it a lot and pick out any lumps or globs that seem to migrate to the edges. You can blend it longer than I did, but for the video's sake, let's just move along. Work it around the edges, and then start working your way into the middle of it. Going in straight up and down tends to leave more holes. This little sideways pokes fills in the holes as you go. And then just keep going and sculpting. Cleaning up. If you see any really big coarse fibers, you can take your scissors and snip them away. Generally they felt in though. If one size needle doesn't grab it, grab a coarser needle and you'll have it done in no time. Again, back in his little nostrils. He looks a little mischievous to me. Let's see if I can't fix him up, make him look a little sweeter. It's just this, when this comes down like this, he looks like a mean guy. So I'm just going to pull this up a little bit and give him a sweeter look. That did it. But anytime you pull something with your sewing needle, you have to go back and felt a little bit. Otherwise it just shrinks right back. He'll be back in his mischief mode in no time. So, kind of pull the eyes out a little bit. Here to fix, I'm going to turn them upside down and felt up this way a little bit so it gets that mean expression off. There. Cute little guy. So now he needs a body and his little clothes. So let's move my needles back. So I'll clean up all my little mess here and save all that if you like. It's good for blending, shading for doll making. So got this lovely bright yellow felt alive needle felting wool. Let's tear into that. This is 1 ounce. You maybe need 1/3 of an ounce, if that, probably 1/4 of an ounce. So you don't need very much. So I'm just going to take and pull some off. What I want to get it into is sheets about the size of my hand. Just this part of my hand. I don't want it hanging over or down my wrist or anything. I want about 3 or 4 sheets of those. Let's say 3 sheets. Pull off some more. You can spread it out. So what I've got is just kind of a mattress of sheets of wool, roughly the size of my hand. I don't have lots of stuff hanging over. You can see my fingertips and my palm. So that's about perfect. And so what we want to do is make an egg just like we made for this one, but this one's going to be a little bit bigger. It's a little more of a handful. So again, I start out my left hand and I have some fluff right over here, just enough that will fold over my thumb. This starts the egg, so I'm just going to fold it right over my thumb, pull my thumb out of there, and you have a nice crease. So now I want to start corralling these fibery edges up. Start forcing them to the middle of the egg shape, which is going to be the thickest. Here we go, right down over. You can sort of see it starting to emerge, so I'm going to go right down over like this. Now I'm holding it in my right hand. So again, right over that with my side of my thumb, I'm pulling the fibers, letting them stretch to form that shape, and this shape of my hand starting to form the egg shape. You can see it right there. This doesn't have many loose fibers left to corral. So here we go, and here's that tail I've talked about on that first egg shape, and we're going to go right around, force it into the middle. So you can see it's nice and tight. I have rolled most of that air out of it, forced it out, but now I need to felt these fibers down so I don't have to hold on to it while I get it into shape for his little body. So this is the tail. I'm still hanging on to it. Kind of felting around my finger here. And that should have been enough to hold it all together so I can let go. There's some of it trying to fight its way back to where it started, but I'm not going to let it. The needles won't let it. Once they're tangled, they're pretty solid. So now I want to roll it around. You can see where we're going with that. I want a nice broad base and a nice thin neck area. So let's just start with the neck area. If you have any of my quad tools, my 4 or 4 needles together, the yellow can be a little tough to pierce in, but it sure does it fast when you're just getting started. If you start to meet too much resistance and you feel yourself working really hard, then switch to the blue needle. The blue needle has fewer barbs, and when there's 4 needles together like that, it pierces in much easier. But you can see how that's just really felting it, and I'm just rolling it around to tapering to a tip, but I don't like to work very hard when I'm needle felting, and this blue slides in much easier. And if you don't have a quad, the doubles work. If you don't have a double, that single yellow will do. I find the yellow grabs more fibers than the blue, but the yellow quad gets a little tough to pierce into all this wool, so here I am back with my trusty old double yellow. It's a great needle. It's a great tool. So I'm just rolling it as I'm working my way up to the top of the egg shape. By the time you get up there, it'll all be nicely felted. If you notice, I'm holding my hand and pretty much my felting hand in the same position, and I just sort of feed my work into it. This keeps I rest my wrist right here on my pad, and it keeps me from getting exerted quickly, I found over the years of felting. And if my hand's not moving all over like this, I don't stab myself very often either. Just feed it right into my little manual felting machine here, my arm, my hand. So I'm going to turn it around now, and I'm going to keep going. My fingers were getting in the way there, and I'm starting to work my way around the edge. You shouldn't have too many hollow spots. See right there, it's kind of a hollow spot, and when you feel your egg, it should be fairly solid. I can squish it, but you shouldn't feel any hollow spots. This one I'm going to be able to felt out, but you can always, if you have a really thin spot in your egg, you can always just add some more wool right over the top. And it usually just fills it right in. I wouldn't have needed to do that, but I just thought I'd show you. This is a great way to cover seams too. there's a seam bugging you, and you shouldn't have any in this little guy, but later on, if you're making other dolls, just covering anything with a thin sheet of wool covers all kinds of things you might not want seen. So now I want to start making this a nice flat base for him so he can stand. Going around that, flattening it out a little bit. I'm not going to do too much, I'm going to keep working on his shape here. Sort of all comes together in the end once you roll it around a few times and get it in shape. Looks really good at the end. It's starting to get ready. So, let's see what this quad filter does to the surface. This thing's an amazing tool for flattening out the surface, taking away the fuzzies. There's some black fiber in there, snuck in. Pull that right out and I flatten it right back down. I love what it does to the surface. And I hold it at nearly parallel, so and the tips are tapered a little bit, and you can turn them and flip them whichever way is comfortable for you. I found that when they're tapered, they pierce into the wool a little bit easier than when they're all in a straight row, so that's how we manufacture these tools. This tapered edge. So, his neck area got a little fat, but that's okay, he can be chubby. He can be chubby guy. So I want to go back into this now. I'm going to take my double yellow because it does the job faster. And I just want to make a nice depression in the middle. For some reason, they stand really good if you have a hollow little depression in the middle like that. You may have to go back into this after we get the head on, after he's all done, and finish this to make it stand better, but they just tend to stand really great. So, it's all felted. I'd go over it a few more minutes if I wasn't filming it. But generally you just don't want to be able to pull off any loose fibers. It should be felted together. It doesn't have to be tightly felted, but it should hold itself together really nicely. So, we're going to take this little head and we're going to attach it to this little body part here. So they're pretty cute looking up like that. That's how they kind of all look at first. We don't make any extra necks, we just attach it right there. So, we have two needles we could use for this. Traditionally, before I came up with my double and quads, this black 36 triangle, this thing moves some wool. And what I want to do is move some wool from the inside of this little head to the middle of this body so they're going to be firmly attached. So what I'm going to do is right in the corner of his mouth, and it's going to even give him a little more definition. And I'm going to just I'm not pulling it all the way out of the hole, I'm going to use that jiggling method I showed you again with the double yellow. If you don't have a black needle, the double yellow does work. I prefer it. I don't use that black much since I came up with my doubles. So now it's just tacked on. If you pulled hard, it would come off. So now what I want to do is go around and attach it all around this perimeter. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of pressing them together, you can see that. And then I'm just going to go around and force some of these yellow fibers up into the head. Go back and forth a couple times before you turn it. And again, right under there. And that's just forcing those fibers up into the head to make a strong attachment. This I call an attachment stroke, where you felt along the perimeters of two parts to get them attached together. So that completed that, but he's a chubby looking little guy. But now what I want to do is take fibers from his head and into his body to make sure his head doesn't fall off. So again, I'm just squishing them together and just reversing what I just did. This is going to make a really strong attachment. Under his chin might be a little tricky. You can bend his body back a little bit. Get it out of the way. You see, I'm just felting the fibers right into it, right from the head into the body. If you see any little air gaps, just looks like I missed a spot there on this yellow side, so just keep working around it. So if you want, you can thin them out a little bit still. It's kind of like clay. It's pretty funny. You can still sculpt his face more. Now that he's on his body, he's got an awful lot of chin there, so I'm going to see what I can do about that. A lot of chin is cute, though, so I'm probably not going to do too much. Just get him smiling a little bit brighter. There. So that's that. That's his little body. So we just have two components left, and that's his arms and, of course, his stocky hat to keep him warm. Arms, we're going to need a felting stick. This is the larger one from the detail kit that I sell in my shop. It's just a candy stick. So what we're going to need is a little bit more flesh tone to make his hands. Simple little stumps for hands. So we're going to pull off two little sheets of wool. They're very small. There's what they look in relationship to my hand. So I'm going to set one aside. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right on my fingertips here, lay that stick on, and I'm going to gently fold it over. You can see there's fluff over here, fluff down here, and I've got it pinched, not too tightly, but just gently pinched between my fingertips. Now I want to roll that just a little bit. I want to roll it. I don't want to twist the wool or anything. And like the egg shapes, we want to start forcing this over the edge. But if you push it with too much force, you're going to poke that stick right through the wool, and that's not what you want. So just gently, see, I got it now pinched between my thumb, and I grab it here and just keep pulling it around. And I've got that little tail again, and so use the strength of the wool. It's very stretchy and it's strong. You can pull it without pulling it apart. So I'm just pulling it as I wind the stick towards me. You can see how that's just giving it a really nice clean wrap around the edge of that stick. I've used the strength of the wool to pull it tight, and now I'm going to keep spinning the stick towards me. I'm going to try not to twist this felt, this fluff right here. Just keep spinning it towards me. As you see how I have this right between my fingers? Well, that's felting it. The friction and the warmth of my fingertips is felting the wool. So you see it's not all wrapped around, it's not a twisted mess or anything like that, and it's holding its shape. So I want to pull that off the stick. It's still holding its shape. It's felted, but not felted really strong, so you don't want his little hand to fall apart and start unraveling. So I've got my double yellow, and I'm just really gently working into the end, felting that first. And then I just want to start going around it just a few times. If it's feeling a little too bouncy, double blue works pretty good too. Single yellow is also a tool you can use for this, especially if you have like a little knot in the end. And just work it out. The main thing with fingers is that well, this isn't a finger. This is the same way I do fingers. This would be a thumb on a big doll. But is that you don't overwork it. Leave a little life left in there. There's one. So let's just repeat that, because this is the thing you need to learn. And I probably can't show you enough times. When I teach this live, I know I have to show it a lot. So again, I'm just holding it right there. See my fingertips? So I'm just going to gently fold some of those over and pinch it just a little bit as I keep winding it towards myself. Now I'm going to gently fold that over with my thumb. Look at that big gnarly black fiber in there. It needs to come out. It's gone. And again, just keep spinning the stick same direction towards me, and use your fingertips to felt that as you spin it. See, I'm going down only about this, just my fingertips. It doesn't have to be very long. So again, pull that off the stick. It's got a little nub out there that got spun a little bit, so I'm going to start. It's my single yellow this time, but I don't find it works quite fast enough for me. I'm a little impatient. One's just a little bit bigger than the other. Felt this one down just a little bit, but it's not going to matter in the end. Most of that's going to be hidden. So hang on to this, the felted part, and just clean up that fuzz on the end. Set those aside. Now you're going to need some more of your yellow, because we're going to make the arms. So, or not your yellow, whatever colored wool you have. So this doesn't take much either. It's probably actually enough for 2 arms there. Maybe a half sheet of wool. So let's see, I'm going to tear that apart again. There you go. That's about what I'm going to start with to make this arm shape. So I want to start with so we have a nice little sleeve edge, a clean edge. If you remember how we got the clean edge here for his mouth, it's the same thing. So I don't want this too thick, so I'm going to make sure that it's not big and globby. I can pull it apart just a little bit. I can't see through it, but I almost can. So that's good. If you want to do 2 at once so you know that they're the same, go ahead and lay out this equal amounts of wool. Just pull it apart a little bit. It's really forgiving. They don't have to be exact. So, like I drew that line in with my double needle, this is going to be, like I said, the clean edge there. So I want it enough just to wrap around this little arm once. It's going to shrink so it's a little bit longer. And again on this one. And so just pull those fibers towards you. See that nice little clean edge? You don't have to do the half circle thing, but just I'm going to switch to my blue needle for this. It's not forcing so much fibers into the pad, and it's actually felting it at the surface where I want it to. So I'm just going to keep going. See how I switch around with needles to see which one's going to speed me up. I find that if I start everything with the double yellow and back it up with any of the blue tools, it's pretty much perfect. So I'm going at a really steep, sharp angle. I don't want to be forcing it straight down into my pad. It doesn't do me any good. So again, on the other side, and just keep going up roughly about the length of an arm's length. It doesn't have to be too long at all. Probably even hard to imagine where I'm going with this. So, again, like I had showed you before, here's red needles are great for this too. Red needles are a star blade. They have quite a bit of barbs on them, and they're really good for surface felting. But they're a little harder to pierce in than the blue stars, which have fewer barbs. Well, quite a science to all this needle felting. All these needles were designed for industrial uses, and we've adapted them for our crafting uses. So industrial uses meaning like the felt from industrial felt for filter materials, or even for the liner of your car trunk, that kind of thing. Velour, carpeting, all kinds of things they use needles for, and we sort of hijacked them. So now what I want to do is lay my little hand there and just see. It's going to wrap right around that. And what I want to do is just pull off this little bit of excess right, it's just at the edges only. And so let's just wrap that right around. Get that double yellow to get it started. I have to be really careful not to pierce all the way through this, because I'll force flesh colors right through the yellow. So I'm just tacking it at the surface. Let me switch. Yep, the double blue works better there. Once I got it started with the yellow, the blue's backing it up perfectly. Taking care of all those little fuzzies. Go around, clean up your little edge there where the two ends met. So now that's all felted in there together. So I'm just going to keep forming this little arm shape. A lot of this arm is going to be sculpted onto its body, so we're not going to worry too much about getting it perfect here. You can see I'm just rolling it around, gently felting it. And I'm working my way up to this fluff, and I'm just going to leave that fluff. The fluff. I got tongue-tied. So here I go. Whoops. Better start out with my double, like I said. Speed it up a little bit. Flatten this out. And when you get to the hat, this is the same technique you're going to use for the hat. It's no different. Well, except for how you form it, but yeah, that's how you start out. So take that off, and I'm going to use that double red to clean up that edge. Switch to the blue. Move my way up there a little bit. Okay, other hand, there you are. Pull off that fluff right there at the edges. Wrap it around. Double yellow to get it started. And onto the blue to clean it all up and make it pretty. Ouch! Okay, I stabbed myself. That was the first time. I was looking away at the monitor. Pretty good about not stabbing myself. That's something that comes with lots of practice. The best thing to do is to keep your eye on your work. If you're filming and looking in the monitor, well, you might stab yourself. If you're watching TV, you might stab yourself. Listening is good, but keeping your eye on your work, just like when you're cutting with a sharp kitchen knife, you don't want to be looking away. You might not get as severe of an injury with a felting needle as you would with a kitchen knife, but they can really hurt. So again, I'm just let's get those fibers started. Okay, so now I've got these arm shapes, and I got this little guy with no arms. So, well, let's get him attached. Like I said, we're going to do a lot of this really kind of still fluffy, but we're going to do a lot of the sculpting right on his body. So the arms are going to be fixed into position. So you can see I tore off some of this fluff on the end, and we're just going to come right up here. And we don't want to have really long arms, so pull some more of that off. So if you can't really have them waving like this because the arms don't have enough strength in them. We'd have to use some different methods like I teach in my doll making videos for that. So let's just start tacking this arm down and working this fluff right under it, right under itself to form the shoulder. So now I'm just sculpting it. Got a little bend in this elbow, which is cute. You see how the wool is just so flexible, and you can sculpt it easily right into shape. So that that yellow is starting to beat up the wool, leaving big holes, pulling too much fiber. So I've switched to my blue double. He looks happy about it. And just again on the other side. Pull it off, let it fly. Let's see here. Double yellow to get it all started. That shoulder looks really big, so we'll just have to felt it down, sculpt it down a little bit. That's looking better. Using that attachment stroke right there to get the arms attached right to the body. And just keep sculpting until you feel it's all firmly attached. They're not going to fall off. They look relatively equal thicknesses. You want his hands crisscrossed. You can felt his hands right down to each other, to his body. Again, I'm going to switch that blue. I don't want to kill the wool with that yellow needle. He's a cutie. He's a little cutie. So that's good. That's he's nearly done. He just, little bald head's kind of cold. We don't do hair on these because their hat's going to cover all that, but I'm going to clean up my mess yet again. And get my felting sticks out of the way. So, to make his hat, you can make a long dangly hat. This guy's hat's a little bit shorter, This guy's is long, it's sticking out straight. So you can make a little beanie hat. Let's just go for one of these cute little stocking hats though. So what I need is a sheet of wool about the size of my hand. I'm going to spread it out just a little bit, so I want it wider at the bottom. See how we're just pulling it into shape without tearing it apart. So I'm just going to lay that right on my felting pad. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my double needle and I'm going to draw a triangle shape right in the center. Now it looks huge. It's bigger than he is. It's going to shrink. So now I'm going to draw a line right across here, complete my triangle. Pull off any of that little bit of excess hanging over. So let's just start here. I need a good clean edge. I'm going to need a clean edge all the way around, and I've showed you how to get clean edges, so let's put it to practice on a little bit bigger scale. This is how I do clothing for my needle felted dolls. Make them on the pad and then attach it to the body. So there's that nice clean edge I was looking for. But all this part of the hat needs to get felted too, so we're going to keep working our way up with this nice double yellow. It sure is taking that air out in a hurry. Flattening it all down. It has to be long enough to wrap around his head one time, so keep that in mind. This part has to be long enough. I'm not folding these over because I need this fluff to attach the two edges together when I form it into a hollow hat shape. So I only needed this one clean edge here, and that's why I'm leaving all the fluff on the sides of that triangle shape. Okay, let me get this Wonder tool here. Gonna have to pull it off here and felt a little bit more on the other side to get it felted better. So really carefully, you can see how all the fibers are sticking in your pad or on your piece of craft felt. So I'm gonna pull it off without destroying your felt. So let me just use this blue quad here. Just really going over it a few times. You can see how much this shape has already shrunk. This rubbing technique really helps felt these fibers. That's just going to make for a sturdier, less fuzzy hat. So, let's try it on for size, see what we got. So I want to be able to wrap it around his head, and I stopped felting him there. You see there, so I'm going to pull that off. I don't want all that fluff right there. If it wasn't going to wrap around his head, I would have kept felted, put it back on the pad, and kept felting, but it's going to wrap around his head. So kind of tricky to get it at first, so I need to pull some of this off. Can't pull much that you've already felted, but you can get it close. So I'm just going to take and start attaching these loose fibers just on this edge, just to get it out of my way as I get this other side of this fluffy down. So using my double yellow to get it tacked down there. We'll be able to get it into shape and down around his face a little more as we go, because I think that's part of their little charm. So just trying to get it into a nice little stocking cap shape, pulling off anything I feel is excessive that I don't want to be messing with. All these chunks you pull off, you can just stack somewhere and reuse them, put them right back in your bat. So I just want to tack these loose fibers down with the double yellow. Now at this point, if you want, you can take it off his head. You just attached it there a little bit. I like to get it off the head and reach inside there where all that fluff met and felt that down. That keeps it from being so puffy looking. And it makes a stronger little hat. If you can see what I'm doing there, I'm just reaching in there. Kind of rolling it around, and it's tacked down a lot of that fluff. So I can't reach in there with this quad glue. And this, by the way, is a great way to make a finger puppet that you could just attach right there to his head. And using the same methods, you could have a finger puppet instead. So that's probably another workshop. And a few other little tricks to know, but not many. So you can see I'm felting right down on top of it, and it's actually felting it together, but you can always just stick your finger in there and pulls those layers apart. So I want to start getting this fuzzy end dealt with. Not felted at all up here, so I'm just sort of folding these fibers over themselves. Okay, let me see if I can't clean that up a little bit with my blue. So you keep rolling this around and felting it till you feel it's nicely felted. You can do that motion again, the rubbing. So I'd probably go over it a few more times with my needle, but for video's sake, I think you've got the general idea. I'm going to put that seam, that's a little chunkier back there where the two seams came together. So put that at the back of his head. Now let's pull his little hat on and make it all cute. You have to really stretch it. It shrunk a lot. So I want his hat attached right to his head. I don't want it falling off of him. So just gently tacking it to his head. See how I pulled it down over his eyes? I think it's just the cutest little thing. We didn't do ears or anything like that because they just get covered. It needs to keep it covered with that hat. Keep his ears warm. So you do a little more sculpting as you go, get that hat fitted a little bit more. So this little trick will pull it up off his eyes just a little bit so you can see him. So you just kind of pull and stretch and sculpt that hat just the way you want it. If you want it sticking out straight, you can leave it. If you want to get it to where it's folded down, well, let's just needle felt that fold right in, which is basically coming from the back side here, folding it and needle felting it down. Still want it to stick out straight, so I'm going to just keep coming, working that little fold area. So there he is, the little cutie pie. If you want a little pom-pom on the end, you can get a contrasting color, the same color, a little bit more wool batting. And to do that, all you do is a tiny little egg. You can see I'm just pulling it around on a real miniature scale, like I told you guys how to do the bigger eggs. A little harder to be precision about it, but we'll be able to sculpt it in a shape. So again, starting it with the yellow double. Look at him standing there, even though I'm bouncing my felting pad around. That little indent in the middle makes him a great little stander. Okay, so I'm going to finish this up, making it more of a ball with my double blue. The double yellow sort of mashes the wool out of place. I think I already mentioned that. So just roll this around just a couple times. We can sculpt it more once it's on. So it's a little tricky to get it attached. I'm going to get this yellow right through here. Don't stab yourself. I just want to drive some of these red fibers into the yellow fibers. So there it is. Let's see if I can't set them right off to the edge. And I want to use this attachment stroke. But single yellow seems to do the job the best. I stabbed myself. Don't do that. I wasn't even looking away. I just wasn't paying attention to where my finger was in relation to that needle tip. Didn't draw blood, felt it coming, but when you're doing these intricate little things, you really have to be careful. So, there you have it. And I know that you can't stop. I couldn't stop with one. Keep going until you have whole villages full of these cute little guys and all they're I guess they're in their little jammies, their little sleepers. I hope you had fun. Happy felting. Thanks for joining me.